Now I would like to introduce you to our next speaker. Veronica Armstrong is a DTM and the Chief Judge for District 21. Tonight, she's going to describe how to conduct quality speech contests, something all area and division governors should know. Speech contests help contestants gain confidence speaking in front of audiences other than their familiar home club. They help organizers and their teams gain leadership skills, and they provide a meaningful source of infotainment for the audience. Veronica will also discuss the role of judges and the art of judging. Speech contests will not have the quality Toastmasters strives for if the judges don't perform their role properly and with integrity. In District 21, we aim to ensure speech contests are entertaining, professional, and fair. So please help me to welcome Veronica Armstrong to teach us about judging.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's great to see so many people out here. Winners in the making, all of you. We heard that we now have 10 humorous speech contestants. Okay, how many table topics contestants? Ooh, okay, good job. All right, so winners in the making, I congratulate you in advance, because just by making the decision to be a contestant, you've already won. And when you're up there on that stage doing your thing, just think back about this night when you actually got up the courage, because this tonight is actually the biggest hurdle. When you're up there, it's really quite easy, because then you're just doing what you committed to do. But it's not only speech contestants who make speech contests. The speech contests wouldn't happen if we didn't have the organizers, if we didn't have all the key players, like the timers, the judges, the ballot counters, and even the audience. So what I want to talk about tonight is how do we ensure that everybody gets a meaningful experience from their speech contest. Not only the contestants who are up there to entertain us, but everybody else who's put all that hard work and planning into action so that everyone can enjoy themselves and come away feeling that the winners really deserved it, and that those who placed deserve to win too. That's what we're aiming for. So, types and benefits of speech contests. We've heard tonight about which two contests? Humorous and table topics. Why? Why have we heard about those two tonight? Because those are the two that are coming up, right? Absolutely. So what we're going to talk about to begin my part of the evening is the types and benefits of speech contests, speech contest preparation, how we actually do that, and the most boring part of all, but something that we can't do without, is the rules. Okay, so we know that we've got the humorous speech contest and the table topics contest coming up. Why do we have speech contests? You've already heard from my introduction some of those benefits. Any other benefits that you can think of? Speech contests? Let's think about it from the point of view of the contestants. What do they gain by entering the speech contest?
Confidence.
Confidence, absolutely.
Experience.
Experience, yes, for sure.
Stretching yourself.
Stretching, exactly what Alan said. Anything else?
Fun.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Fun.
Fun, absolutely, the main one. It's fun. It may not feel like fun when you're standing up there the very first time you do it, or even the 120th time you're entering a speech contest. But once you get into the swing of things, it really is fun. What about for everyone else who helps organize a speech contest? What do they get out of it?
Teamwork.
Teamwork, participation,
Sense of purpose.
sense of purpose, but more practical than that.
Put it in your CL manual.
You can put it in your CL manual, that's the best reason of all. But I'm talking about skills building, right? So one of the things that we do, Ian?
One of the ways to become a better speaker is to try your hand at being a judge. It really forces you to understand the criteria. It makes you more aware of what works and what people are looking for in speech.
Absolutely, yes. Judging is extremely important, and I'm going to talk a little bit later on about what the difference is between judging and evaluating, and tell you a little story of my own that happened to me at my very first speech contest. Okay, so we know that the humorous and table topics contests are coming up. We need to finish the division contests. I believe the date is October the 15th, but don't hold me to that, which means that your club contests, area contests, and division contests must have been finished by that date. Actually, let's just go back. If any of you belong, and some of us do, belong to District 96 as well, you'll know that instead of having a humorous speech contest this year, they're going to have a tall tales contest, and that was not without controversy. So if any of you want to see something different, they're having their fall conference a week or 2 weeks, 2 weeks before ours. Go and have attend the Tall Tales contest just to see what that's like. I've never actually seen a Tall Tales, but I'm told it's really great. Okay, so how many of you here are area or division governors? Okay, a few of you. You're the first resource that people go to when they're preparing a speech contest, because who else will they turn to? People at the club level may not know how to hold a speech contest, and they probably have never even heard of speech contests. The very first contest that I attended, in fact, what happened was an area governor came along and said, well, are you holding a speech contest? And we said, what's that? In very much the same way that Alan experienced. And we actually did hold one. There was one contestant, okay? I think you were the only contestant too, were you?
No, they managed to get a couple of other people.
Okay, well, I was the only contestant in my speech contest. And when I went to the area contest, I'd never seen a contest before. I didn't know what it was all about, went along to this area contest, and there were 2 of us in the area contest. I'll talk about that a little more later, but it can happen that you hold a speech contest with only one person, and it can happen that maybe you go through, as I did in the humorous contest, I think it was 2012, I didn't even have a club contest. I went straight through to the area contest, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. So these are things that you need to know as area governors and division governors, and anybody else who's going to be part of the organization or participating in any way in a speech contest. You have to understand the rules. Okay. So this is part just information. Every district has to have an international speech contest, and they can hold 3 additional contests a year. So we have ours is humorous, table topics, and evaluation, and the evaluation and international speech contests go together. Okay. All right. So I'm going to ask you, have any of you been in a contest before in any way? Okay, about half the room, great. Is there anybody here in the audience who has never even been to a speech contest? Okay, a few of you, all right. For those of you who've been to a contest before, you may or may not have had this role, but if you were the contest chair, do you know what you need to order for all the contest speakers? Okay, what's the answer?
I think you're going to need the bios for all of the contest contestants.
You're going to need the certificates of placement. You're going to need all of the information for your judges, something for your chief judge.
Yes. What are you going to give the contestants, each contest speaker? What are you going to give them?
You're going to review the, I guess, all the rules with them.
Yes, you do have to, and we'll go over the procedure in a little bit. Anyway, the answer to that is that you were on track when you talked about the certificates. All of them get a certificate of participation, and that's to show our appreciation of the fact that they've actually taken that step to be a contest speaker. The contest chair has to order for the contest winners the trophies that are going to be handed out. Now, why did we think that that's important? It's important because you cannot hand out a prize that has the word Toastmasters on it unless it comes from the Toastmaster store. Okay, so copyright, trademark violation if you use the word Toastmasters and it's not a product that has come from Toastmasters. So just a little bit of word of warning for you. You can have ribbons and things like that, but even so, order them from the Toastmasters website. Okay, so that's the answer to that one. Now, if you are the area or division governor and you're right now organizing those contests because you're in planning, even if the club contests haven't completed yet, you have to have your planning so that you can tell your club contestants when and where your area contest and division contest are going to take place. That's actually 2 to 6 weeks in advance of that contest taking place. Now, you may not have known this because I didn't know it, and I've been a judge several times, but the chief judge should tell the contest judges to sit somewhere fairly specific. Any ideas about where that might be? Separately, but more importantly?
Close to the front.
Close to the front, well, close to the speaking area so that they, in fact, can hear the entire speech in case there's a disruption. So this is the rule book. The rule book is the most important item that actually comes in a speech contest package. I think it's worth it for everybody to download it anyway. It's a free download from the Toastmasters website. One word of warning. People who have been in Toastmasters a long time think they know the rules. Every year, this rule book changes. Every year. So you must be absolutely sure that you're using the current rule book. Okay. So it's item 1171. Okay, I'm going to close this off now. We'll get the lights turned back on. Thanks. And what we're going to do now is, as I've promised you, we're going to come to the really boring part. Okay, sorry. Should have warned you about that. The really boring part. I'm going to actually go through some of the key items of the rule book. Now, how many of you have been a judge before? Oh, tons of you. Great. Did you all read the rule book before you became the judge? Maybe. I expect you to, if I ask any questions, I expect you to know the answers offhand, right? Just like that. Okay, first thing I want to cover is eligibility. Anybody here can tell me what makes a contestant eligible? Speech contest?
You have to have at least 6 speeches in your season.
That is only for international speech.
Absolutely right. So, myth. Lots of people will tell you, and I've been guilty of making this mistake myself. In fact, last year when one of our new members wanted to enter the humorous speech contest, I said, oh, but I think you need to have had 6 speeches under your belt, and she only had 3. The truth is, it's only for the international speech contest that you need to have 6 speeches done, okay? Any other contest, it doesn't really matter.
speaker needs to be in good standing.
Yes, the speaker needs to be in good standing, and there are two components to that. Can anybody tell me what that means? The speaker must be in good standing. The speaker must have paid their dues. Okay, so there must be a member of the club where they're competing, or be in the area, a member in the area that they're competing at, which means they must have paid their dues, the application must be in, Toastmasters must have their name on file, etc. What's the second component of that eligibility? The club must be in good standing as well. Okay, so if the club is not in good standing, but the speaker's competing and the speaker gets chucked out, not very nice. Okay, we did actually have an incident, I suppose one could call it, a few years ago, when somebody actually moved up the ranks through the various contest levels. And I think it was at the district level that they discovered that the speaker, in fact, was not eligible at the club contest level, because although her membership application had been submitted, Toastmasters hadn't actually processed the paperwork. And so she was disqualified on the basis of eligibility, and they only found out several levels later. You don't want that to happen. You want to make sure that if somebody is entering the speech contest, call Toastmasters if you have to make sure that the application form is in and the dues are paid and they've recorded it. Okay, so that's eligibility. Now, there's some people who can't compete because their office makes them ineligible. Those are your district governors, division governors, area governors, anybody who is in a district officer formally recognized role. So, for example, you could be the webmaster, the district webmaster. You're still entitled to enter the contest. When I was in the humorous speech contest in 2012, I was actually the corporate club coordinator at that time for the district, but I was still eligible because it wasn't one of these offices that I held that made me ineligible. Okay. Now, Toastmasters, if you're in more than one club, you can compete at different clubs. The only problem is that if you get to the area level of competition, you cannot compete for more than one club. You have to choose then. Okay. So to be a chief judge or a judge at all at a contest, you've got to be a member in good standing as well. Now, a judge has to have completed at least 6 speeches. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Because we want to know that people who are actually judging the speakers know what they're judging them on.
Is that for every contest? Every judge has to have 6 speeches in?
At an area, division, or so not at the club level. Yeah, not at the club level. Oh, okay, I was going to talk about something that actually isn't relevant, because I was going to mention the eligibility, the 6 speech eligibility, but it only applies to international contests. Originality has to be, the speeches have to be original, and that means that up to 25% maximum is allowed for quotations or, plagiarizing. I suppose we all plagiarize, really. That's what we do. Every time we make a speech, we're plagiarizing either our own work or somebody else's work. However, it's got to be done in a way that is actually original. So you can take material and you can synthesize that material, but the outcome must be original, because less than 25% of it is allowed to be copied directly or quoted from somebody else's work. So, procedures at area contests. You need a contest chair, chief judge, 5 voting judges, a tie-breaking judge, 3 counters and 2 timers. unless it's impractical. Usually at the club level, it is impractical. At the area level, it may very well be impractical too. Some of those areas that District 96 has up north, you know, they're miles and miles apart. There's just no way that they're going to get lots of people there. But if at all possible, which is why I say try and cooperate with the areas nearby you so that you can all work together. In fact, if anybody would like to come and help out, my club in Richmond, Spotlight Speakers, is having its speech contest on the third Friday in September anyway, whatever that date is. So anybody wants to come and help, please just come out to Spotlight Speakers on that night. We need lots of people. Okay, so contestants are briefed on the rules by the contest chair. We've talked about that already. But the chief judge of the contest actually has to brief the judges as well. So go through the rules, go through the guide as I'm going to show you in a little while, and make sure that everybody knows what they're doing. So timers, the contest chair will also brief the timers so that they know what they're doing, and the counters will get their instructions too. So if you happen to be the chair, you heard Ian refer to this earlier. If you happen to be the chair of the contest, you're going to introduce people. You introduce them by their name, the title of their speech, and their name. That's it. There is no dilly-dallying or, you know, elaborating or embroidering on any of that. That's all it is. Now, I have seen contest chairs actually violate that rule, but it's because I think they're so caught up in the moment or they haven't read their rules properly, but you know now. Okay, name, title, name. For the table topics, however, you're going to introduce each contestant by announcing the contestant's name, the topic, and the contestant's name. So, similar, try to keep the question using the identical wording. Because if you change something, you may be putting one of the speakers at a disadvantage. So whatever the topic is that you've chosen as the contest chair for the table topic, make sure that you're repeating the same topic to every contestant. Now, those of you who, most of you actually have been in contests before. What are the rules about the table topics contest? Where do the contestants go? Do they sit in the audience?
They stand up.
They stand up.
No, they stand out.
Oh, they go out, yes, okay. Sorry. Yeah, they leave the room, all right.
They give numbers.
Yes, okay. So somehow they draw, yes, all contestants draw for any contest, yeah. Yes, that's right.
And they can sneeze.
Yes,
A sergeant at arms would escort them not just out of the room, but actually out of earshot.
yes.
And stay.
Yes, yes, and sometimes it isn't practical. I've actually had to stand out in the freezing cold because there was no other room available. You have to have all of the contestants out of earshot of the speech that's going on right at that time. And the sergeant at arms, it's their job to actually see that they, you know, to make sure that they can't hear what's going
We
on.
use the washrooms at our club to turn the fans on.
Okay, if that works, nowadays we're going into transgender, unisex, all kinds of bathrooms, so maybe that would work. And you could always have the, if you've got the fans going and you've got the water going as well, then at least you can say, you know what, I don't have to be nervous by the time I get out of here because I'll just be so happy to leave this washroom. Okay, 1 minute of silence between all contestants, that's so that the judges can actually mark their ballots. And then when the last contestant finishes speaking, sometimes you hear the contest chair call for a 2-minute silence. In actual fact, it's just silence until all of the judges have finished marking their ballots, but hopefully they're not really slow writers. Or if you're like me and you're actually trying to calculate all the points, I'm going to talk about that later. Don't, because my math is very bad. And it's really kept me going because I thought I really had to count up every single point and, you know, once I get past 20, I can't make it. Okay, judges, be very, very careful to write the names of your first 3 placements on the ballot card, write your name, and sign it. Because if you don't do those 3 things, your ballot is invalid. Okay? So the first thing you do when you actually get your judge's ballot, and you will have one for whichever contest you're judging. Okay, so I just happen to have printed the evaluation contest, but they all look the same, or more or less the same, not exactly. The first thing you do is sign your name and write your name, because you won't know your placements until the very, very end. But if you do that, at least we know that we've got one thing over and done with. Timers, if you're a timer for the speech contest, you must complete your timing sheet and you give it to the chief judge. And the ballot counters and the chief judge at the end of the contest will collect the ballots from all of the judges. Hopefully the judges have remained anonymous, but honestly from a practical point of view, it doesn't work. People will always see people scribbling, but not everybody who actually has a ballot will be a judge, so hopefully not everybody knows exactly who the judges are. The ballot counters and the chief judge actually move out of the room. The ballot counters count the ballots, they verify the numbers against each other, and then they give that to the chief judge, and then the chief judge will make sure that the certificates, the winner's certificates are actually written out according to that placement. Now, if there's a tie, that's when the chief judge has to go and call on the tie-breaking judge's ballot. The tie-breaking judge doesn't hand in their ballot before that moment. So if there's no tie, the tie-breaking judge's vote doesn't count. Clubs can decide whether they want to send, if they have decided that, there really is only one person who wants to go and compete, they don't actually have to hold a speech contest. But if they do decide to have a speech contest, then that speaker does have to actually speak. So I was telling you earlier, the very first speech contest that I ever attended in my club, it was the very first speech contest we'd ever had. I was the only contestant, but I actually did have to go through the whole ritual. Now, can anybody tell me why you think that that's important?
Make sure you don't get disqualified.
Exactly, yes, because if you're disqualified at that level, you cannot go to the area contest, okay? So one time I actually didn't, my club decided to just send me off to the speech contest. This was probably my second contest. So we didn't have a speech contest at club level, but I did have to do the area contest, and I was the only contestant in the area contest that time. So the first time there were 2 of us in the area contest, second time there was only me, and there were 3 judges. Well, the 3 judges were actually everything. They were the judges, the timer, the ballot counters, whatnot, but they had to go through the whole process, because it's part of the protocol. You have to follow the rules, and that has to be done. So I couldn't just sail through the area contest. Same thing. If I had been disqualified for time, I wouldn't have been able to go to the division contest. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever been part of a contest where one of the contestants, where there was a protest. Has anybody ever encountered that? Okay, can you tell us your story? What happened at that contest?
After the winner was announced, somebody came back and protested the winner, and the judges, I don't exactly remember, but the person that protested their protest was put aside, so the winner was actually a winner.
Okay. Was that at the district contest?
No, it was within the club.
Oh, it was in the club. Okay. So that can happen. There can be a protest. And in fact, at one of the district contests where I was a judge, there was exactly that. Somebody protested one of the contestants' speeches on the basis of originality. They said that the speech was not original. And so the chief judge had to call all of the judges, call the speaker in, explain what the protest was about. The speaker then had to justify themselves and explain or rebut the protest. And in that case as well, the judges then, after then, the contestant was asked to leave, and the judges then conferred, and we came to the conclusion that in fact there was no merit in the protest. And so that speaker in fact was allowed to go through. As it happens, that speaker didn't place, but you can protest. Now, only a limited class of people can protest, and you can only protest on two bases. So the first basis for protest is that the contestant is not eligible, and we've covered that already. It must mean they're a member in good standing and that their club is in good standing. You can protest on the basis of originality. Okay, so those are the only two. Eligibility, originality, there can be a protest. Protests can only be lodged by the voting judges and another contestant. So nobody else, if somebody else does protest, the chief judge cannot accept that protest. I hear the phone going. I think that's to remind me that I only have 10 minutes left. Humorous speech contest rules. The humorous speech has to be an actual continuous speech. So it can't be, you're not doing stand-up. So if the speech contestant is just doing stand-up and it's just a series of one-liners, that's not good enough for humorous speech contest. And the contestant, in fact, if you're judging them, that's one of the bases that you can say, in fact, they didn't actually follow the rules. It's got to have an opening, a body, and a close like every other speech. Table topics. If you're the table topics master, well, you're actually the contest chair, because the contest chair chooses the table topic. Make sure that it's of a general nature. So you cannot ask a question like, do you think that the carbon tax is fair, and if so, why not? Or if so, why? And if not, why not? Okay, so it may be of a general nature, but it's too detailed to have for a table topic. So let's talk about judging. We've talked a lot about fairness. We've talked about the fact that judges actually have to have 6 speeches under their belt. Why do we want fairness?
Can I just say, from the perspective of a contestant, contestants work so hard. They prepare and take hours and hours and hours. The last thing you want is to go and feel that you've got ill-prepared judges, people who really don't know what they're doing, and it's a crapshoot in terms of how it comes out. So fairness is essential to the integrity of the whole contest.
The whole thing. And it goes beyond even how do the other contestants feel. It's how everybody in the room feels. I went to a speech contest once. I was asked to be the timer. I timed it. There was, in my view, one clear winner, an absolutely clear winner, and that person came second. I found out later that the judges were from the same club as the winner. I came away from that contest wishing that I had not been the timer, because it left a very, very bad taste in my mouth. That was not fair. It wasn't fair to the person who should have won. It wasn't fair to the winner either, and it certainly wasn't fair to anyone else in the room. And the one thing that Toastmasters is extremely proud of, and that we actually have a duty to uphold, is the good name of the Toastmasters brand. So we want to be absolutely sure when we're judging, we're doing the best we can to choose the person that we think is the best speaker. Now, it's subjective. There's no question about it. I might like somebody else's delivery more than you do, and so I may place them higher than you do. But the point is that we have guidelines, and we'll use those guidelines, which I'll go through in a minute. So we do want to make sure that judges are absolutely fair and that they know what they're doing. So they must be knowledgeable, they must be good listeners, they must be accurate. They're not evaluating. At that very first speech contest that I was talking about, where there were 2 contestants, there was no question the winner should have won. She was just way, way ahead of me. Afterwards, one of the judges came up to me and he said, "You did not circle back at your conclusion to your opening point." Bad move. First of all, he was evaluating me, which he shouldn't have done. And secondly, the judge does not go and talk to a contestant. Okay? You're impugning your integrity if you go and speak to the contestant about their speech afterwards. You're not carrying out your role as the judge. Once you've judged, that's it. The ballots get destroyed. There should be no communication between the judge and the contestant. You know, if they're a friend of yours, you can say, "Hey, that was a fantastic speech." If they ask you for your evaluation, different story. But as the judge, you have no right to go to the contestant, and nor does the contestant have the right to go to any judge and say, "Well, how did you judge me?" Okay, so let's go through the guide quickly. I know that you don't actually have it in front of you, but as you can see, this is what it looks like, and it's separated into different vertical and horizontal rows. And what we suggest you do is you actually start on the far right-hand side. So the first speaker who comes up, you write their name in the little box at the top, and you'll see, in this case it's an evaluation, but for humorists, you'll see that there's a point system. For the table topics, there's also a point system, and there's a certain percentage that is allocated to specific things. So, for example, in table topics, it will ask you for, was there good development of the topic? Was there a good structure? And then what was delivery? And usually delivery is a fairly small component. It certainly is not 50% of the judging. Now, I was talking earlier about how I was trying to add up all the different points. If I gave somebody, 66 out of 100 and somebody else 82 out of 100, how did I calculate that fast? You don't have to do it that way. It doesn't have to be that difficult. Just choose. There's excellent, very good, good, and fair. And although there are points allocated for that, you can just do like a C plus or a C minus or an A minus or an A plus if somebody's like Alan and they're really brilliant. Okay, so just use a system that works for you, but do follow what is covered in the actual ballot. So if it is about delivery, if it is about language, choose that. Be very careful how you start off though, because if you start off too low, thinking that you want, to have a kind of a spectrum that's reasonable, make sure that you're judging everyone at the same level. Don't start off too high because you may have no place to go. So be very circumspect about how you actually do that. Does it matter at the end of the day? Often I come out with, okay, well, I've given so-and-so 87 points and I've given somebody else 92 points, but I actually preferred speaker 1 to speaker 2. Then I will put speaker 1 as the first one, even though on my scorecard they actually got fewer points. So don't be bound by the actual point system. But as I said, you do want to make sure that you have followed all of the criteria on your ballot sheet. And you will see when you get your ballot sheets that for humorous, there's certain things that you have to look out for. For table topics, different things that you look out for. Any questions on any part of speech contest, Alan?
Can I just add that I think we're learning through you, Veronica, that the chief judge's role is so important. And I think the importance of the role actually takes place before the meeting. I think the chief judge going around and trying to find judges at the meeting is not the way to do it. They should know ahead of time who the judges are going to be and have them see the judging form and on the back the judging criteria, etc. So that people have thought about it before they get there, have looked at it carefully. So often I see people, would you judge on the day? And I mean, they're going into it cold. They have no background in terms of this, but it's so important for the contestants. It's going to be fair. So
absolutely.
Chief judge's role is
yes. So the contest chair and the chief judge of the contest, really, you have to do your planning in advance. You really do have to be organized, which is why we're talking about these things now, so that you've got time to plan your area contests and division contests.
Veronica, I would like to compliment Amy and her sister, Peg and her sister, from Evening Edition, right? When I did the area contest, I was chair of the area contest, and I looked at what they did for their club contest. They broke everything down on a time basis. So I did that for the area contest. We had a bit of a kerfuffle at the beginning when we started a half hour late. And I knew that I had so much, and it kept me on
track.
On point, on track,
yeah.
To the point where I had extra time. And I could ask, when you're interviewing the contestants, I had more time. And also would like to compliment them because they were the timers at this area contest, and I was doing this, I would look down and I'd go just like this, and one of them would go like that,
right,
or like this, and it gave me a great deal of comfort.
Yes.
To know that, oh, there's a minute left, there's 2 minutes left, and to give me that so that I could pace through. Nobody could see it because they couldn't.
Right.
And I could.
Yeah.
I'm just going like this and they're going like that. Nobody understands. But that's really important to have a good repartee.
Sense of, yes, absolutely. And timers are key, but everything that you've mentioned here, these are all the skills that we learn at any club meeting. How to organize our meetings properly so that everybody knows what they're doing and when and what's expected of them, and the timekeeping, so very important. Last question.
For the timer, for a contest, is it okay to have a clock or it must be lights?
It doesn't have to be lights. Nowhere in any Toastmasters manual does it say you need to have lights for your timing. But your timing, whatever device you're using, even if it's just timing cards, must be visible to the contestants. Okay, so they must be visible. You can use cards, you can use lights, you can use an app on your phone, whatever it is, it must be visible. Okay, all right. So I'm really sorry that we don't have time for any more questions, but thank you very much for your attention.